Hello and welcome to another episode of the Session Recall podcast. What we're doing today is we're actually just catching up from where we left off from the previous episode. So we're talking about going on to songwriting as a musician, another income stream such as session work or working on your own productions, and also just touching on monetization as well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll just jump back into where we were from the previous episode. Bye-bye. Just moving away then from saying like that we're going to release our music commercially. There's other ways than obviously thinking about ourselves as musicians, thinking ourselves about artists. Songwriting camps could be something that like people sometimes do. You can see like, like collaborating. So really good example of this in Wales might be Amy Wadge, who obviously like started out in Cardiff, was a solo artist, and one of her songs actually ended up being Thinking Out Loud, which she collaborated with on Ed Sheeran. Working as a songwriter and working on camps, and that's another route that people can take. You're obviously writing all the time. I think that's like Jessie J started out as that in LA, started out as a songwriter working on different pop tracks. Bruno Mars, similar. Was the most successful songwriter in the world? I think it's Diane Warren, and most people haven't heard of her.
No.
Then you bring up her song list, and it's absolutely insane. She's written for Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, like Tony Braxton, Celine Dion, and everyone.
Yeah, and a lot of big artists who you think are just artists, but they've written songs. Some of them write songs for lots of other people as well. You wouldn't necessarily know that they write for other people. You just know them as a big artist. But yeah, we work with people, don't we, who they work on their songwriting, and then they write songs that aren't necessarily in the style that their band would do or they do as an artist. So they don't record them for themselves, but what they do is record those songs for publishing, get other people to do them, or get them onto films, or get them onto adverts, or get them as jingles or whatever. And I think honing on your songwriting skills, you don't just have to write just songs that suit you as an artist. That's another way. If you're a good songwriter and you're getting some positive feedback on the songs you're writing for your band or for you as a solo artist, then why not progress your songwriting, be a songwriter as well in parallel to your band, because it's another revenue stream. Again, very competitive, but yeah, the songwriting camps, going on the camps, picking up the tips, working with people, becoming a better writer, learn how to, maybe you want to start getting into writing pop stuff or something like that, but you're not necessarily a pop writer, then learning off guys who do that for a living, successful guys. So yeah, the workshop's a brilliant way to kind of expand your songwriting.
And one of the things that would normally happen, I suppose, is like if you do go into then, is thinking about like the contracts that might be in place, or thinking about agreements in terms of how the song would be split. In terms, obviously, one of the things that happens, I think, like the song will get broken up into lyrics and music. So it's normally 50% for the lyrics, 50% for the music, and then it's like sometimes you might need to think about sitting down and working out who wrote what, who did what.
Yeah, do that. Do that very early on. It gets messy.
It's one of the things I've actually mentioned. Like we did a Band Foundations checklist, which you can download for free. There's a link in the description, in the show notes as well. It was like one of the bands that I worked with is there's a difference in opinion about who should get what, because you have bands like U2 where I think everything's split equally between all members. So like lyrics, music, and everything. And then I know, for an example, like Stereophonics, I know Kelly gets the lyrics, and then the music might be split between them. And then in other bands, it might be split on a per song basis.
Yeah, I've seen, obviously, over the years, been working with many bands, and I've actually sat in on some of the meetings and encouraged them, really, people to talk about them, have a definitive way. Some bands, like you say, if there's 4 in a band, they just go, no, everything's split equally. Someone brings an idea in, the rest of the band work on it, the song gets constructed that way, people throw their ideas in, but then someone might come in with a finished song and the others might not have much input on it, but they're still going to get 25%. And you can say, well, that's not fair because the other guy did all that. But in that deal, that other guy is free to bring his own songs in as well. So yeah, getting that, whether it's everyone's getting it equally no matter who does what. But I've sat in on some meetings where everyone literally goes through how many words they wrote, through how many chords, whether someone adjusted a middle 8, and then they work on that, and they end up with crazy splits between, someone might get me just 3% or something. But they do that for every song. And other times there's just one songwriter in the band and the rest of the guys in the band are just happy for that one guy. And that guy gets everything. That guy gets 100% of the publishing. And you could say, well, that's not fair. Well, they're still getting their royalties for being in the band and the performers and their sales, but they're not getting any of the publishing. But they also haven't got any of that pressure of writing successful albums, and you've done a successful album. You're the one in the studio day in, day out, making sure it's how it should be. Then you go on tour. Then you come back off tour, which could be 18 months away from friends and family. The rest of the band go and have a bit of a break, and you're like, I've got to write the next album, and you can't just turn it turn it on and flick a switch.
No.
So it's a lot of work goes into big artists and a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. But getting that in place, and or like you say, if someone's usually the chief songwriter, but then someone comes up with a part and comes in the band, then you just go, okay, that's a really good contribution to that song. So yeah, there's 10% of the publishing. Get that written down. So you can have a standard contract written up, and I'm sure we'll be doing a bit anyway on kind of contracts and splits and everything. We're going to have a music lawyer in with us who will be online, and you'll be able to ask them questions about things like that. And you get a standard contract drawn up, and then you can just tweak it then. Tweak the numbers for whatever you want to do, but do it before it's released, before someone, we're going through it at the moment with one artist. Yeah, and she's having a nightmare. So it's best to get it all in place, written down beforehand.
Yeah, songwriting, again, it's another way of like, say you're songwriting in the background, you're not a lead artist, you're not like a featured artist, is what it's sometimes called. You don't have to go on tour, but you'll get, every time that song gets played live, if we go back to the performance of the song, you're going to get that as a royalty. So all that's coming in on top of the sales and everything, but you don't have to have like that risk of like being like Taylor Swift or whoever, like going out and performing. So like Amy Watts doesn't have to go on tour with Ed Sheeran, but every time he plays in the festival, she'll get a songwriting royalty from...
She's actually a really good performer as well, and she's great. But a great example of someone who's just a brilliant songwriter, brilliant performer as well, but just brilliant songwriter, and turned her hand to that side. Once you start having the success, then realizing, right, okay, we're focusing on the songwriter, getting better as a songwriter, and then passing that knowledge on to other people.
Next one, I'm probably going to combine these two together actually. So that I've got them down listed as you've got session work, and then possibly then the other option, and on top of that is producing other people. I think a lot of people might have come through this way. How I started, I was always a musician, and then I just used to record the demos before we went in the studio. I thought I could do this. Off I trot to my own little place. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I started recording, friends for free and stuff. Gradually progressed into producing in my own studio and everything. What we're seeing now as well, especially in the last 2 years in terms of COVID and like lockdown and remote work, we definitely use quite a few people who are like session players. Say a really good musician who's been in the studio. If there's somebody who really stands out, we might call them back in for another session.
Yeah, if that's a guitar player who's got a unique style, or we saw a drummer do something, and then a session comes in who's looking for a drummer, we've got a list of people then that we got that person's going to be. We were just talking about it before, actually, weren't we? Who was going to be suited to a certain session and why? And we came up with a list of names and reasons why, and then we pulled in a whole band full of session musicians.
I think that goes back to one of the previous episodes when we were talking about General Ford's Army, or Daisy, Flame, and the Porcelain Cage.
Yeah.
Sometimes I actually stumble on my own name. Yeah, then just think, okay, these musicians would be really good. And then with technology and stuff now, like recording equipment isn't that expensive. So having your own setup at home, and if you can record, because like I know you get stuff sent over all the time. We do a lot of strings remotely, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, you get a lot of strings remotely. I don't as much.
The benefits of that, obviously, we've got someone who's really good who does a lot of stuff for us. Be another great guest to have on, actually, Andrew Griffiths. Not just is he good and comes up with great parts, whether it's brass or strings or orchestral stuff, you're doing by sending it to him is you're saving on studio time. So when we talked about in podcasts before about the use of studio time and making best use of it, I mean, we can program strings and we can do it, but it'll take us a little bit longer than him, but we can come up with the parts. But while you're in somewhere like Rockfield and I'm just sat at a computer doing that, that's eating up valuable studio time in a studio that has big live rooms and 9 bedrooms. And I'm just sat there on a computer programming strings or whatever. And even if you get a quartet in, that's great to have that in, but it's eating up studio time as well. It's a great experience. But if you don't have the time, then sending it to someone remotely. So if you're good at that, and if you're good at Beat Detective for drums on Pro Tools, it's a service you can offer. And if you're good at string arrangements, then it's a service you can offer, because it's great for us to be able to send it. We can carry on working. We get them back. We've lost 0 time. And the amount of money you've paid is worth it. And you've probably saved more for what you pay for a service like that than the amount of what it's cost you in studio time for a producer, a studio, and engineer. Yeah.
And one of the things I recommend for artists is, as you're developing, if you've got a setup where you can do that, I've just been working with someone in Dublin where they're offering mixing and like guitar session playing online, and they're doing it through Fiverr. It's something that like it'll develop over time, but if it's something that like, you use as a side gig, a side hustle, if you take that recording rig with you on tour, there's no reason why you couldn't do some of the recording on the bus, or when you get to the venue, then like just setting up. Okay, well, I just need to record a bit of guitar, like DI or whatever. I can reamp it or record it on the stage, and with keys as well. Like it's something that if you can do, and there's like another service you can do from the comfort of your own home. I know we've done a session. Shirley, who came in, like gave us a song, and we recorded everything. I think I did the recording for the keyboards and the bass in my friend's cat's house, and then sent it over to you for adding the final bits.
Yeah.
So it is something that there is, if you're in demand, normally people might approach you for playing. And if you make a good impression, it's always, again, this idea about networking.
Yeah, I think if you've had a really good session, if you're working with a producer, the session's gone well, and you're the drummer or something, and it's gone, down really well, and you've had really good comments. I think a little email out to the producer after the album, just saying, look, loved working with you. If ever you get a session that I could come in on, you're looking for a session drummer, I'd love to do it. Obviously, how I play, and then that's in the mind of that producer. Then that's your business card. Is they've already worked with you. They know how fast you work. They know they can throw things at you and you can handle it. So yeah, definitely put your services. Little email to the producer afterwards.
As a musician, you can also ask like a testimonial, because one of the people we were talking about, I think on one of the sessions, is, oh yeah, what about this guy? He got on the website and my testimonials on front and center, whatever. I completely forgot I even did it.
Yeah, you get a little, put it up on your website, or the people you work with. Every time you go into a studio for your own stuff, get whoever's there, the engineer, the producer, or whatever. Or if you're doing a live show, if you're touring with a bigger band, get a quote off the bigger band.
Yeah.
What do you think of the show?
Content as well. Just film you playing along, film you at the gig, at the studio. That all enhance what you're doing. I've seen it a few times where the artist obviously done like the band, and they've got their own little recording setup, and then talking about producing other people. In a way, you did that a little bit from working at Rockfield. You had your own recording setup. You're doing demos. And then you were getting called in as well. And my path as well, I started out as a musician first, and then kind of fudged together my own approach for recording, and kind of taught myself and everything. And then if you've got a space that you can record with, you might have people going on, like if you're recording your own band, you might get approached about doing other sessions with other people. As a musician today, it's just trying to think about, right, what are my strands of income? Where am I going to make my money from? It's not just we're going to blow up and become massive, we're going to have a number one hit, but there's like loads of different income streams that we can look at. Can we manage our time? Can we split this and make it sustainable?
Yeah, because people always think about, I need to have another job to sustain my music, but maybe music is that other job.
Yeah.
And their focus is their music and their band, and then working 9 to 5 or whatever to fund it, so they get weekends off to play gigs. But your job that funds your music can be music. It's tough. Not going to, there's a lot of people trying to do it. It's a tough market, but if you just put your mind to it, these little bits all add up.
Yeah, because the other things as well, like teaching.
Yeah, I mean, we work with lots of people. That's how they make their money. To subsidise their own music is they're teaching in the week or whatever, and they can teaching online or teaching in person. They may be playing in function bands as well, because they can go out and do the wedding on a Saturday or whatever, and it's 250 quid in their pocket. So then they kind of got a bit more free time to work on their own music, because they haven't got the constraints of a 9 to 5 job or shift work or anything. And they can do schedule their lessons around their life, and they can take gigs at weddings and things like that if they want to, as and when they need to. Definitely, if you can have a career in music to subsidise your music, then it gives you a bit more flexibility, because you're your own boss, to be able to say, well, I can't do that because we're on tour with them then. Constantly, you need a very understanding boss to get lots of time off too.
Yeah, whereas if you're in control, then you can do that. But again, it is work, but then there's always people looking for, like, as a solo artist, you can go out and play during the week. Like my mates play in Live Lounge in Cardiff, and there's like a weekly slot at like 4:00 till 6, and that means that if they need to, they can go off and gig in the evening or whatever, go out and play, and like they normally know their schedule. For some venues, they might know their schedule a year in advance, and they can go, right, I want to have 2 weeks off to go on tour, I want to have a month here or something, and they can do that. And like there's definitely like a few bands that I know of that they do that. They've actually used their music to kind of do it in some way, or in some shape or form. Even it is just go out and do like a show under a different name.
Well, I'm going to be talking to 2 full-time musicians next week, actually, on a session that I'm on in Rockfield. So I'll be talking to those guys and how they made the switch from having full-time jobs and trying to do their own music on the side to becoming full-time musicians, and how they've sustained that, what they've had to do to keep that going. They've been doing that for years now. What kind of income they get from it, how many hours they have to work. We'll be talking to them about all those things. But for them, it was making the leap. That was the hardest thing. They had a regular job bringing in regular income. And maybe that's, especially if you start having kids and mortgages, that's a godsend. But it was having the confidence in your own ability to make the leap. And then how hard did you have to work? What did you have to do? What did you have to get involved with? Because they both do their own music, but it's not their own music that makes the money. All the other aspects of their musical career that makes the money, but that enables them to also make their own music and tour their own music and be a musician as well. So, we'll be talking to them about all the aspects of how they made the leap and made it work for them.
Recap. So we've talked about merchandise, people starting out, where the money comes from. We talked about royalties in terms of live performance, songwriting, mechanical royalties, and sound recording. Talked a little bit about publishing, talking about songwriting, session work, also like working as a producer potentially. And as Nick said, we'll be looking at going to like interviewing other people for one of like the future podcasts. The final thing as well, like, it's probably one of the ones that people might think about first of all, is thinking about like the monetization and brand deals online. So the most common one that people might think about is YouTube. So monetizing on YouTube, I think you need 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers. When you say like 4,000 hours of content over the course of a year, it sounds quite a lot, but if you regularly update and putting stuff out, it can work really well. But then you see artists like, you see people like, say, Chris Buck, who's from South Wales, like, you know, he's been a guitarist in tutorials of videos and stuff. And like you've also done, was it James Hargreaves? He did a lot of stuff where he's actually breaking down like content and he's actually doing descriptions and stuff. So it's not always just about, you don't have to just go like buy my music. It's actually making a show or talking about something that you're interested in. And there's quite a few examples of people who are doing that. I know, like Justin Hawkins is doing his YouTube, and like it's being supported by Patreon.
Yeah, following his Instagram. He's so good on there, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, it's informative, it's funny, it's witty, it's very intelligent, and it's in depth where it needs to be. Yeah, he's doing and brilliant channel.
Yeah, and then Chris, I know when he started out, he was doing a lot of guitar reviews, a lot of like techniques and breakdowns, how to play this, how to do that, and obviously he had his band on the side as well, like Buck and Evans gigging, and obviously he used to go up touring and managing, and obviously he's doing Cardinal Black as well. And I think Cardinal Black are really tight, really good bands, but all the work that Chris has done in advance, obviously like, that's helped in a way help him establish.
Yeah.
And he's had like a team of people, but like it's that support from what he's been doing. And it's not something that's happened overnight. This is like a long tail kind of idea. It's been a good few years. I mean, I've known Chris now about 4 or 5 years, maybe. And it's not something that just happens. He's just become big and get 100,000 subscribers. It's something that's gradually evolved and it's just kind of grown exponentially. When you're starting out, think about it. Think about what can you do that provides information and value to someone else, but not just go like, here's my track, and then just expect to get like monetized straight away. As you develop your brand, as you develop like your following on all these platforms, developing yourself as an artist, you might find that like people start approaching you to like say, would you be interested in doing like guitar endorsement or something? You might get some free equipment or something like that, or like the string endorsement one is normally pretty common as well. So it's like all these things that as you're developing and building, you can get these like endorsement deals in place, and then you might get invited out to do like trade shows with the band to kind of perform as well, and that can all enhance your profile.
Yeah, and it all adds up. You know, if you can get cymbal deals or stick deals or string deals, like you say, it's money you don't have to spend. Technically, it's another form of income because you've got to spend that money if you're a touring musician or a recording musician. So yeah, if you can,
and then you might get featured on the adverts as well. So they might actually pay for you to be in a magazine. I remember like another artist I worked with in Rockfield, like I said, Ben Montague. He had like a headphone endorsement deal, and then I remember opening up magazines. Oh, that's Ben. He hasn't had to pay for that advert, but they'll put a little link or something to him to his profile. And then I know like Whips, like Burning Crows had like is it Vintage?
Yeah, Vintage guitars.
And
don't forget his Vocal Zone endorsement as well.
Yes, he does have a Vocal Zone endorsement. And they had like string endorsement deals as well. And all those things help artists and everything. But it's something that as you're building and developing it, it'll be something to think about. This is what we'd like in our goal. It's like, where do we see ourselves in 5 years' time? And having that plan, and then might be able to like work backwards and build it from that. I think that kind of covers most of the things. Is there anything else that we can add to this, Nick?
Not that we're not going to cover in other podcasts and courses that we're going to be doing and interviews.
Cool.
Let's go in some money, John.
Yeah, let's go in money. So as I mentioned earlier on, we've got a checklist available for you to download. It's completely free. It's sessionrecall.com/ I'll put the link on the website. I can't remember.
Band checklist.
Band checklist. There it is. Oh God, I can't even read my own thing. It was right next to it. So Session Recall / band checklist. That's free. It's a PDF guide. It's a couple of lessons and stuff that'll come through on your email. So check that out. Have a look at it. And it's just basically expanding a little bit more on what we talked about today. Thank you very much, Nick. And see you all again next time. Bye.